Did you know Hawaii almost wasn't American? Or that part of Spain is actually in Africa? Most people think they know which country a place belongs to, but geography is full of surprises. In this video, we reveal 8 places around the world that belong to a totally different country than most people think. From remote island territories to enclaves hidden deep inside other nations, prepare to see the world map in a whole new way. These are territories that defy common sense. Places that look like one country but are legally another. There are historical reasons behind every one of these surprising borders. And once you know them, the world will never look the same. We'll explore the politics, the history, and the geographic oddities that created each one of these mind-bending places. Every place on this list has a story. A real story with wars, treaties, and decisions that changed the map forever. So let's get into it. Place number 1, and it's a place you thought you knew. Hawaii, the 50th state of the United States. Stunning beaches, volcanoes, and palm trees. As American as it gets. Or is it? Look at a map. Hawaii sits more than 2,400 miles from the US mainland, right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. These 8 volcanic islands feel more Polynesian than American because they are. Hawaii was an independent kingdom for centuries. Its people had their own language, culture, and royal family. In 1893, a group of American businessmen staged a coup, overthrowing Queen Liliuokalani against her will. The U.S. government formally annexed Hawaii in 1898, despite a petition signed by the majority of native Hawaiians opposing it. Today, American flags fly everywhere in Honolulu. But look closely at the Hawaiian state flag. It's the only U.S. state flag that features the British Union Jack, a reminder of Hawaii's ties to the British Empire before the Americans arrived. Hawaii didn't become a U.S. state until 1959, and the debate over its sovereignty hasn't fully ended. Native Hawaiian activists still call for independence, arguing the annexation was illegal under international law. Pearl Harbor, the famous military base attacked by Japan in 1941, sits in the heart of Hawaii, cementing its role in American history forever. But geographically and culturally, Hawaii belongs to Polynesia, a world away from Washington, D.C. So next time you think of Hawaii as just another American state, remember how close it came to being something else entirely. Place number 2, and this one will genuinely confuse you. There is a piece of Spain sitting on the coast of Africa. Ceuta is a Spanish city. It has Spanish schools, Spanish police, Spanish euros, and it sits on the African continent. Located on the northern tip of Morocco, Ceuta is separated from the Spanish mainland by the Strait of Gibraltar, only 14 kilometers of water. But on the other side of Ceuta's border fence is Morocco. A completely different country, a different culture, a different world. Ceuta has been under Spanish control since 1668, long before Morocco became a unified country. Today, it's one of 2 Spanish enclaves on African soil. The other is Melilla, 400 kilometers to the east along the Moroccan coast. Both cities are technically part of the European Union, making them the EU's only land borders with Africa. The border fence between Ceuta and Morocco is one of the most fortified in the world, built to stop migration into Europe. Thousands of migrants attempt to cross into Ceuta every year, seeing it as a gateway to the EU. Morocco has long claimed sovereignty over both enclaves, calling them occupied territory. Spain disagrees. Walking through Ceuta, you'll hear Spanish, see Spanish architecture, and find a McDonald's, while Moroccan mountains loom in the background. It's a living paradox. Europe inside Africa, an island of the EU surrounded by the developing world. Ceuta and Melilla prove that borders aren't just lines on a map. They're artifacts of history, frozen in time. Place number 3, and this one broke my brain when I first discovered it. There is a piece of Russia sitting between Poland and Lithuania, completely surrounded by European Union territory. Kaliningrad is a Russian exclave. It has no land connection to Russia itself. It is physically cut off from the motherland. This city was once called Königsberg, one of the most important cities of medieval Germany, home of philosopher Immanuel Kant. After World War II, the Soviet Union seized the territory from Germany, expelled the German population, and renamed it Kaliningrad. Today, to travel by land from Kaliningrad to mainland Russia, you must cross through either Lithuania or Belarus, both foreign countries. Kaliningrad sits on the Baltic Sea, surrounded by NATO and EU members, making it one of Russia's most strategically sensitive territories. It hosts Russia's Baltic Fleet naval base, one of the most powerful military installations in all of Europe. After 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, Kaliningrad suddenly found itself isolated from the rest of Russia. The city went from a closed military zone to a struggling exclave overnight, economically dependent on trade with its EU neighbors. Today, getting to Kaliningrad from Russia requires a flight, a ferry through international waters, or a special transit arrangement through Lithuania. The city still carries the ghost of Königsberg. You can see old German buildings standing alongside Soviet apartment blocks. Kaliningrad is Russia, but it exists in the heart of Europe, a Cold War relic that the map forgot to explain. Place number 4. And this one seems obvious until you really think about it. Alaska, the largest U.S. state by area. Glaciers, bears, the northern lights. Unmistakably American, and yet it's completely separated from the rest of the country. To drive from Alaska to the continental United States, you must pass through Canada. There is no other way. Alaska is not just far from the mainland, it doesn't touch it at all. It's separated by an entire foreign country. But it gets even stranger. Alaska was Russian until 1867. Tsar Alexander II sold it to the United States for just $7.2 million. That's about 2 cents per acre. One of the greatest land deals in history, and the Americans were initially mocked for buying what critics called Seward's icebox. Alaska's border with Canada stretches nearly 2,500 kilometers, the longest land border between any U.S. state and a foreign country. Look at a map of Alaska and you'll notice something strange. A long, narrow strip of coastline called the Alaska Panhandle cuts down along British Columbia. This strip of land was the subject of a major border dispute with Canada in 1903, resolved by an international tribunal that sided with the U.S. Old Russian Orthodox churches still dot the Alaskan landscape, a visible reminder of the territory's czarist past. Alaska wasn't admitted as a U.S. state until 1959, the same year as Hawaii. The two newest states, both geographically separated from the rest. Alaska's oil reserves, discovered in the 1970s, transformed it into one of America's most valuable territories, proving the icebox critics spectacularly wrong. Next time you look at a U.S. map, notice how Alaska just floats there, cut off, isolated, and yet unmistakably American. Place number 5, and this one will make you question everything you thought you knew about France. There is a piece of France in South America. Not a colony, not a territory, it is France. Fully, legally, constitutionally France. French Guiana sits on the northeastern coast of South America, bordered by Brazil and Suriname. It is a French overseas department, the same legal status as Paris or Lyon. The people of French Guiana are French citizens. They vote in French elections, use euros, and carry French passports. The European Union's border extends into South America because of French Guiana, making it the only place where the Amazon rainforest is legally part of Europe. But French Guiana is perhaps best known for something that has nothing to do with France or South America. It is home to the Guiana Space Center, the European Space Agency's primary launch facility. Rockets blast off from the Amazon jungle into orbit. The location is deliberate. French Guiana sits close to the equator, giving rockets a speed boost from Earth's rotation, reducing fuel costs significantly. France originally colonized the territory in the 17th century. It became notorious for its brutal penal colony on Devil's Island, where political prisoners were sent to die. Today, French Guiana is the EU's only territory in South America, but also one of its most unequal, with poverty rates far higher than in mainland France. Its indigenous communities and maroon descendants of escaped slaves still maintain traditions that have little in common with European France. Standing in the middle of the Amazon rainforest in French Guiana, you are technically in the European Union, a fact that is hard to fully process. French Guiana is proof that France and Europe extend far beyond what any map legend might suggest. Place number 6. and this one has a legal status unlike anywhere else on Earth. Svalbard is an Arctic archipelago, halfway between Norway and the North Pole. Polar bears outnumber people. Glaciers cover most of the land. Svalbard is Norwegian territory, but under a 1920 international treaty, citizens of over 40 countries have the right to live and work there without a visa. The Svalbard Treaty is one of the most unusual diplomatic agreements in history. Norway owns the islands, but cannot restrict economic activity there. Russians, Chinese, and citizens of dozens of other nations have all legally established settlements on this Norwegian Arctic island. There is a Russian coal mining settlement called Barentsburg on Svalbard, where Russian miners live under Norwegian sovereignty but in a fully Russian cultural environment. Svalbard is also a demilitarized zone. Norway cannot build military bases on its own territory here, another condition of the 1920 treaty. The archipelago experiences months of complete darkness in winter and months of midnight sun in summer. The polar night is total. Longyearbyen, Svalbard's main settlement, is one of the northernmost permanently inhabited places on Earth, closer to the North Pole than to Oslo. Climate change is hitting Svalbard harder than almost anywhere. Temperatures are rising nearly 4 times faster than the global average. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault sits here, a massive underground bunker storing seeds from every food crop on Earth, designed to survive even a global catastrophe. Under the northern lights, in the middle of the Arctic, you are standing in Norway, but surrounded by a world that belongs to everyone and no one. Svalbard is neither fully Norwegian nor fully international. It exists in a legal twilight zone that has no parallel anywhere on the planet. Place number 7, and this one has been a diplomatic headache for over 300 years. Gibraltar is a tiny peninsula attached to the southern tip of Spain. You can walk across it in under an hour. But Gibraltar is not Spanish. It is British. It has been a British overseas territory since 1704. The Rock of Gibraltar rises 426 meters above the strait that connects the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea, one of the most strategically important locations in the world. Spain has been demanding Gibraltar back for over 300 years, and British control remains as firm as the limestone rock itself. Gibraltar has its own government, its own currency, and its own culture, a unique blend of British and Mediterranean influences. The famous Barbary macaques, wild monkeys, roam freely across the rock. According to legend, if they ever leave, British rule will end. The British military has maintained a garrison in Gibraltar for centuries, and a full RAF airbase sits right in the center of the territory. Getting from Gibraltar to Spain means crossing one of the world's most unusual border crossings, where the airport runway cuts directly across the main road. Gibraltarians voted in 1967 and 2002 to remain British, rejecting Spanish sovereignty by overwhelming majorities each time. Brexit created a new problem. Gibraltar voted 96% to remain in the EU, but as a British territory, it was dragged out with Britain. The Strait of Gibraltar below, just 14 kilometers wide at its narrowest, is one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Thousands of ships pass through every day. Gibraltar is proof that a tiny piece of rock, in the right location, can reshape centuries of history and diplomatic relations. Place number 8, and this is the one I promised would blow your mind. And it will. The Åland Islands are a Finnish archipelago in the Baltic Sea, sitting between Finland and Sweden. They are officially part of Finland. Finnish citizens. Finnish territory. But the official language is Swedish, not Finnish. Åland has its own flag, not the Finnish flag, its own postal stamps, its own government with significant autonomy, technically Finnish but barely feels it. But here's what really makes Åland extraordinary. It is the world's most demilitarized region. No military bases, no conscription, no weapons. By international treaty, Åland has been a completely demilitarized and neutralized zone since 1856. It started during the Crimean War, when Russia, which controlled Finland at the time, agreed to demilitarize the islands under pressure from Britain and France. When Finland gained independence in 1920, the League of Nations awarded Åland to Finland over Sweden, but only on the condition that it remained demilitarized and Swedish-speaking. Today, Åland is one of the most peaceful places on Earth, a neutral zone in the Baltic, untouched by military presence for over 160 years. It's also one of the wealthiest regions in Finland, driven by a thriving shipping and tourism industry. The islands have around 30,000 inhabitants spread across thousands of small islands and skerries, most accessible only by boat. Walking through Åland, all the signs are in Swedish. The shops, the schools, the newspapers, all Swedish. But your passport says Finland. Åland is the perfect example of how borders can preserve culture, protect peace, and create something that belongs fully to no single identity. 8 places, 8 stories, 8 moments where geography defied everything you thought you knew. Hawaii almost wasn't American. Ceuta, Spain in Africa. Kaliningrad, Russia inside the EU. Alaska, separated from the rest of the US by an entire country. French Guiana, the Amazon rainforest that is legally part of Europe. Svalbard, Norway's Arctic territory open to the world. Gibraltar, Britain's rock at the tip of Spain. And Åland, a Finnish archipelago where everyone speaks Swedish, no one goes to war, and the whole world agreed to keep it that way. These places exist because of wars, treaties, purchases, coups, and decisions made by people who are long gone, but whose choices still draw the lines on our maps today. The world is stranger and more interesting than any textbook will ever tell you, and the map is full of more surprises like these. Which of these 8 places surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and share this video with someone who thinks they know geography. If you want more mind-bending geography content like this, hit subscribe and the notification bell. We'll see you in the next one.